Okay, welcome. In this video, we're going to talk more about arrays. So let's refresh things we know about arrays. Arrays are declared with a data type and a name. As you can see here, this is the data type is double and the name of the array is X. So this is declared to have 8 elements in it. So the way that you display an array is by drawing a little picture here like this. And that's how you can display and follow what arrays. When we get to character arrays, it'll be very nice because each one of these elements in the array, when you're doing character arrays, will have a character in it, and we can start to make words. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about arrays. All right, array is a data structure that's composed of related data items stored under the same name. So that's just a very fancy way to say that you have related data items. So what that means is that your data items in your array are going to be of the same data type. So at this time, we know int, and we know double, and we know char. So you put your data type when you declare your array, and then they're under the same name, and then you name it. So in this case, the one down here, the name of that array is X. Okay, they are all of the same data type. Okay, an array element is actually one element in the array. So right here, this is an array of type double, and this is one element in the array. And right here, X at index 6 is a double. So anything I can do with a double, I can do with one element in my array. The value of that is 14.6. So that's the same thing as having a double variable. So X at index 6 or at any index within the range of the array is of data type double. So that means that I can scan into it with scanf and %lf. I can print it onto the screen with %f. I can use it to do math, etc. Okay, so subscript. The subscript is just the number that is inside of the brackets. So in this case, if we have 8 elements, we have subscripts 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. All right, so here is the element right here. The element, you use the subscript to get to the element within the array. All right, so now the next thing we're going to be talking about, a couple things in this video. The first is how do we go through an array to get to all of the elements in the array. So let's take a look at this. So let's say I have this array. It's going to be size 11, and the name of the array is square. So I have this array. The name of the array is square. And to draw a picture of this array, this is element 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. All right, so in this case, assuming that all of the elements in my array, which the array has been declared, but there are no elements in it. Now this is the loop that would go through all of the elements in my array. However, if I wanted to put items in my array, a good way to do it would be to use this same loop here, and let's do it with user input. So this, we can't really calculate this sum here that's being calculated because our array, we don't know what's in our array. We have no idea what has been placed into the different elements of my array. So let's assume that right here, we're going to put this code right in there, which is going to be a loop that's going to go through the array and ask the user to put numbers in. So the way that you do that, you just use a for loop. For I equals 0, I less than, so this is going to be less than 11 or less than size. We're going to go one at a time, I plus plus. And what we're going to do is we're going to ask the user to enter a double. It's data type, oops. We don't want to enter a double, we want to enter an integer. We want to enter an integer because all the elements in the array are integers. So we would ask the user to enter an integer. Let's erase that and fix it. Enter an integer. And then we can scan into each element of the array with user input. Scanf %d. And because we're going to be scanning into each element, which means it's going to be an element in my array called square at index I. Now, this square at index I is of type integer. Since it is of type integer, we need to put the ampersand because we're going to go into the location in memory where it is located and scanf and put it there because this square at index I is this element right at index 0 is this element right here. Square at index 1 is this element right here, etc. So let's go through this loop and see what happens. All right, so for I equals, so we declared it and we declared our sum to be 0. So now we say for I equals 0, just assume that this loop right here is in the code right here before that other loop, because we can't calculate a sum of all the elements in the array if we haven't put the elements in the array. So here we say enter an integer, and we get an integer from the user, so the user enters a, let's use a different color, so the user enters a number 6 here, the user enters a 0, enters a 4, enters a 1, enters a 0, enters a 2. So let's see what happens here. We start at I equals 0 and size is 11. So we'll start from 0. Is 0 less than 11? Yes, it is. Enter. So I is going to be 0 because we're at the first location. So we're going to scan in and the user is going to give us a 6. Then I is going to change to 1. Then we're going to check. Is 1 less than 11? Yes, it is. We enter an integer and it's going to go into, now I is 1, so it's going to go into this location. Now we change I to 2. Is 2 less than 11? Yes, it is. Enter an integer, scan in into square at index 2, so the user enters a 4. And then we keep going, the user enters a 1, then we go up to 3, to 4, to 5, I is 6, scan in, the user enters a 1, I is 7, I is 8, I is 9, and I is 10. So now the user has entered all of these numbers and I has now become 11. When I becomes 11, then this condition right here becomes false and the loop will stop. And then we will go down to this loop. So it's very important to practice reading code and to understand how this loop works. This loop right here for I equals 0 starts at the beginning of an array at index 0 and goes up to however many items you want to put in that array. And in this case, we're filling our array with 11 items. Now, this next one right here, we're going to go through each item in the array and add them together. So we start out and our sum is 0. And then we're going to go, for I equals 0, we're going to go to square at index 0. Square at index 0 is a 6. We're going to take 6 and add it to 0, and it's going to be 6. Then we're going to move on, I plus plus. That's going to add 1 to I, so now I will become 1. We check, is 1 less than 11? Yes, it is. So now we're going to take whatever is here, which is a 0, add it to the sum that was a 6, and the sum will be 6. Now we're going to change I to 2. Is 2 less than 11? Yes, it is. So we're going to go here to square at index 2, which is a 4, add it to the current sum, and the sum is going to go up to 10. Now we're going to change I to 3. Is 3 less than 11? Yes, it is. So when we change it to 3, we're going to take the 1, add it to the ongoing sum, which was 10, and that will equal 11. So you can continue to do this. This loop will continue to add up all the elements until eventually I will become 11, and it will hit this condition where 11 is not less than 11, and then it will stop, and it will add all of these together, and the sum will be calculated for all of these elements. Again, just remember that this is a loop. To go through an array, we will be using this loop throughout the semester. All right, some other things we want to talk about are searching through an array and using array elements as arguments to functions and passing an array to a function. So I'm going to be doing that in the next video.